All right, guys, so the other day we did a video on this car and it turned into just the HVAC blend and mode door video. I'd actually planned for it to be a longer video going over a full inspection, but once I got it and started editing it, it was going to be too long, so I decided to make that a standalone on just that mode door actuator. So in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the 2007 Legacy GT with 200,000 miles on it, doing a full vehicle inspection front to back. Also did a cylinder leakage tester on it. This is kind of a mismatched video as I've already shot the majority of it over 3 days now. So with that said, let's go ahead and get into the inspection. All right, guys, so I just moved the Legacy into the driveway a little bit better so I could jack it up and check out the brakes. And I did hear that squealing noise. It seemed to be coming from the serpentine belt. When I steered, I could hear a squeal. So likely this belt is a little loose. We'll check it. We'll pull it off, take a look at it. See if we can figure out anything. Looks to be the issue. So definitely sounds like it's something in the serpentine belt drive here. All right, guys, so got the front end up in the air. You might think I'm tearing this car apart, but that's what I'm here to do. So we're looking at the front control arm bushings. They're both very worn, dry rotted, cracking. Front brake pads are very thin on it. Luckily, the rotors are in good condition and should be able to be turned. They told me that they'd had several power steering pumps and several power steering racks installed in this vehicle. And I don't know who did the job, but there's lots of fasteners missing from underneath this vehicle. They did not stake the CV axle nut back in correctly. There's a bolt missing on the steering rack. I'll show you that when we get underneath. There's a bolt missing for the downpipe. Lots of stuff not done correctly. And frankly, leaving fasteners out is just plain stupid, lazy, and dangerous. So going to the passenger side of the vehicle now. Again, brake pads are worn. We got the same dry rot in the lower control arm, but on this side, it looks like we've got a blown strut, lots of oil up there. Likely the original struts. From the look of it, they are stamped Subaru and KYB. So likely these are the original, like almost 200,000 mile struts on this car. If we look right through here at the downpipe, you can see there's a bolt missing for the downpipe where it bolts to the side of the transmission. When we get underneath here in a second, I'll show you that bolt missing on the steering rack itself. So looking underneath, looks like our tie rod end is okay. Our ball joint on this side is good. Sway bar end links shot, sway bar bushing, I would advise replacement. Our cam cover gasket's completely gone, leaking lots of oil on both sides. Possibly the turbo oil drain is leaking, but it's hard to tell if as much oil is leaked out of the cam covers. Our oil cooler O-ring is definitely leaking and has been for some time. Got a little bit of seepage from the oil pan. Again, near 200,000 miles, so this isn't out of the realm of normal. Again, we see sway bar end link needs to be replaced. Sway bar bushing on this side isn't as bad. Ball joint, both are fine mechanically, but the boot is busted on this side. So I would want to go ahead and replace that sooner than later, because water and stuff's going to get in there and start tearing that joint up. Now, on our steering rack, if we get under here, I don't believe that is the factory fastener with the hex head there. The hex cap screw or bolt, and then they completely forgot to put this bolt back in here. I'm assuming that they stripped the threads there. What else am I seeing? This engine mount here is potentially gone. Don't have a good area to pry up on the turbo models, but I think that engine mount is succumbed to the softening of oil leaking on it, and it looks like it's kind of splitting out. This engine mount, on the other hand, looks almost new. Cam cover gasket leaking on the driver's side as well. And then, of course, we already looked at the lower control arm bushing. We do have a leak on the side of the transmission. Right here from our transmission cooler line, we can see right there where it's been leaking for some time. And we do have some wetness here on one of the trans cooler lines, so not sure if it has a crack that's seeping or if it's leaking up there at the clamp. All right, guys, moving on to the back here. Not as much going on in the back as the front. Our brake pads are down to a sliver. Rotors are in good condition, so likely we're going to turn all 4 rotors and put new pads front and rear. The trailing arm bushing, I don't know if we'll be able to see that at this angle. It's pretty cracked and dry rotted. Maybe you can see that, maybe you can't. Our upper link here, it is really bad. You can see the bushing is starting to tear out and just come apart. It's also extremely sideways in there. These are known to fail with higher mileage, and being almost 200,000 miles, you know, would not expect it to last any longer than it has. Both rear struts are dry, but these are all 4 the factory Subaru struts, likely never replaced. It amazes me how many times I see Subaru vehicles, you know, that are late 90s, 2000s models with, you know, hundreds of thousands of miles on them with factory struts, never had struts replaced when they're supposed to be replaced every 60,000 miles as a general rule of thumb. But otherwise, nothing really going on back here on the driver rear. Passenger side rear, more of the same. Really thin brake pads, really dry rotted cracked trailing arm bushing, and that upper link bushing going not as bad on the passenger side as the driver side, but do need to replace them in pairs. And again, dry strut, but factory Subaru stamped strut. So yeah, the back is nowhere near as bad. Even the sway bar end links and sway bar bushings are in really good shape here in the rear. So likely some of this stuff has been replaced. I doubt it's all factory original from 2007, but pretty sure these struts are. So car set for about 2 days now. Had some stuff going on this weekend. Got up to start it to see if I could hear the squealing, and I did. It was just the serpentine belt here, the one for the alternator and power steering pump. Likely a little loose or contaminated. That's what's squealing. So that's the loud squealing noise, no big mystery. I literally had the car run for like 15, 20 seconds and started seeing a little bit of coolant here at the upper coolant reservoir. So I said, all right, well, this hose must be leaking or this spring's getting weak. I'll add that to the list of parts we need. So I said, well, let's go ahead and take the cap off. It ran for no amount of time. There should be no pressure built up in the system. Took off the cap, and as you can see, coolant splattered out. There was pressure in the system. So I cut the car off, waited a little bit. I just started it up, backed it up, and moved it over here. Probably 30 seconds of running. There should not be any pressure in this cooling system. It hasn't had anywhere near enough time to get hot or pressurize itself. So let's take this cap off and see if there's pressure. And there was a little bit of pressure there. Again, I barely ran this engine. So I suspect we might have a head gasket issue. And since that's the case, I'm gonna go ahead and do a cylinder leakage tester and see if we get any air bubbles out of this upper reservoir, because I don't wanna suggest doing struts and sway bar end links and, you know, rocker cover or cam cover gaskets and there be a head gasket issue on top of everything else. So we're gonna go ahead and do that right now. Check that, make sure the head gaskets are still good. We know, looking underneath, I don't think we saw any external oil leaks, so the only failure we could really have, since oil and coolant aren't mixing, is coolant to combustion. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. All right, guys, so good news. I jumped the gun on thinking there was a head gasket issue. Went ahead and did the cylinder leakage test on the entire engine. All cylinders are in phenomenal shape, only 10% leakage across the board. And the leakage I heard was from the piston rings. Wasn't hearing anything out the intake or exhaust. So really, really well-sealed engine to have right at 200,000 miles on it. I'm guessing that the little bit of pressure that was in there is just some residual pressure that was there from the last time I'd run the engine up to temperature. Although it's weird for it to hold pressure that long. Figured it would have bled off by now. It's been like 3 days. But anyway, we're good mechanically. We're going to go ahead and put this back together. Well, I'm going to go ahead and put this back together and get him a parts quote and price quote on everything I found, and let them pick and choose what we're going to do. All right, guys, so as I said earlier, the serpentine belt's what was squealing, and it was just loose, so I tightened it up. All that's good. That's all it was. So all you guys looking for some kind of weird issue that we're asking about the loud squealing, it was just a belt in this case. Can't help you on what yours might be. So I've gone ahead and pulled the timing cover so I can get a look at the timing belt. I'm not too sure how old I think the timing belt is. I have to talk to them, see if they've had it replaced. If they haven't, it is due for its second replacement, being that it's right at 200,000 miles now. There was a dirt dauberness in the air box. Air filter looks like it could be replaced. Did notice that the power steering fluid is at the bare minimum for cold men, so they're going to fill that back up. But that pretty much wraps it up for this inspection on this 2007 Legacy GT. And hopefully we'll get some repair videos out of it. And, you know, we're at least going to do the brakes, and probably going to replace that actuator in the dashboard. And not sure what else of the things I found will get added to the list of go ahead and do it. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. I will see you in the next one.